Morning YouTube. Now in this video today guys, I want to have a chat with you about weather, burnout, getting frustrated with things, all that sort of good stuff. So let's get on with it. Now for me, I'm getting fed up with the weather. It's just persistent. It's for about 3 months we've had pretty much it's not constant rain, but it feels like the ground's just been constantly wet, and it's just got worse. So pretty much I'd say for the past month we've had rain, either every other day, or it's rained, it's not rained for like 2 or 3 days, but it's poured it down in the night, and we've had good days, but the ground itself has just stayed wet. The lawns have just stayed wet and damp, so when you do the first cuts in the morning, they're damp. Even if it's a nice day, there'll be so much dew on the lawn, and then it'll sort of brighten up. At the end of the day it'll be drier, but it's never felt like it's been dry. It's just been very, very damp all of the time, and it gets frustrating. I'll be honest with you, it's started to get me down, because you just expect it. And the thing is, it's not just me getting wound up by it, it's other people, and part of me thinks, well, it is what it is, and it is, but at the same time it's the equivalent of being told just get on with it, and you do have to, but I can see how people get frustrated. I really, really can. I can see how people just get, to the point where they just think, fuck it, because it doesn't take long to get to that. You can have it where you'll have a couple of setbacks. You've got the ever persistent bad weather that's just driving, you're insane, and it could be something just breaks the camel's back, so to speak. So it is frustrating, it really is. I've noticed now the cordless stuff doesn't seem to mind it. If it is that I'm using it and it's pouring down, I'll carry on using it, but when I put it down, I'll put a bucket over the motor and battery, or I'll prop it up under a tree where there's a bit of shade. I try and be responsible. I don't just leave it out to its own accord. Same with a mower, I'll just push it under a shed roof or a tree, or just even where there's the wind's blowing it away, or just a bit of cover. Try and look after the kit as much as I can. Inside of the van, you notice it, you get in the van and it just feels damp. The back of the van's worst. I always try and air my van. If I'm at a customer's house where I'm working on the front and I feel safe leaving the doors open, I will. All of them, just to get as much air through, just to dry things as possible, because you can see sort of rust start setting in on things. But touch wood, whether it's because there's ventilation, it never gets too bad. I know winter time there's a lot of condensation, and I think the next van I might actually insulate, even if it's just sticking like sound deadening and bubble wrap on the top, like that self-adhesive like van insulation thing, and then probably next van I'll take the ply lining off and then insulate under with that stuff, and then on the roof I'll probably do it, and then because I think if it's bad it will get ripped, but if there's ply boarding covering it, and nothing ever hits the roof really. So I think just because winter time it does get very damp, and I've noticed mould does set in, and I try and leave it to air, but the first time it happened, in the first year of owning a van, it happened, and I remember going and squeegeing it and drying it, and it had come as fast as it did. So I just got fed up with it. I'd fucking sod it, and I've left it. I've had this van for 5 years now, and I just leave it. It'll condensate and it'll drip. You'll look in there, it looks like something's rained on it, but there's not a great deal I can do. I think next van probably insulate it, and the price of those diesel litres, to be fair, have dropped so much and they're actually quite economical. That you know, if I had a van big enough, it might be just a case of hooking one of them up and then having it sort of drying it out, you know, as and when. But I'll be honest with you, no, I don't feel like it's causing a problem. I think I'm just over-engineering it and overthinking it. But the kit doesn't like it too much, so I do try and maintain it, especially anything like loppers and hedge trimmers. I keep the blades greased, and you know, I've got some, it's like a penetrating spray. It's one of those sprays that does everything. So it's a rust preventer, it's a grease, you know, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully that just keeps everything. And touch what it does, I never really have any problems that I can attribute back to it. So maybe everything I'm doing is working. But the mental side of things, it's just sapping. It really does. It's like I say, it starts to get you down after a while. So I just try and be as optimistic as I can. Thing that I've done, I was speaking to another gardener about this, and it's not, I always think of pros and cons, and this is another pro for it, is my workflow has changed, where I seem to be having more little jobs on in the day. And I was talking to him about this, and he said he likes to do, you know, he doesn't like running around as much as he used to. And I actually prefer it in a way, as long as it makes sense financially. You know, if you're spending 4 hours in the van doing like loads of little jobs, it's pointless. But for me, I can do like, it's one round the corner, one round the corner, one round the corner. You know, it's nice and straightforward. So I don't really mind too much doing the things. But another sort of real pro point for it is that if I've got a day where I've got 6 or 7 jobs that are like half an hour long or an hour long, there's basically, as weird as it sounds, there's more breaks in the van. There's more time where, you know, I get out, get wet, and I can sit in the van for 5 minutes and sort of dry off. So I'll always bring a towel, you know, just to dry my hair, and you know, dry. And I always change my clothes, well, change my jackets and hoodies, stuff like that. And I find that is a little bit better. I'd hate to do a day rate, you know, a full day where I'm just getting lashed all day. I really would not appreciate doing that, if I'm being honest with you. I think that would be absolutely sapping. A full day of rain. I've done it before. I've done day rates where they're a good thing, and if you're to move them, you end up sort of losing that day. So I have worked in just pouring rain. And it's been atrocious, if you want me to be honest with you. It's been really horrible. So in a way, I'm, you know, a bit more relieved to have more of these little dinky jobs where I'm in and out. So burnout, I don't think I've ever felt to the point where I'm burnt out, but I'm seeing other people. I think with me, maybe it's my bit of my nature where things do get more trouble than it's worth. I'll just walk away from them. So if a customer gets a pain in the arse, or even a job, you know, say if I had a problem, I had it with a mower where it had a problem, and so I changed the oil, changed all the difference, so it just wasn't running right. And I thought, you know what, I'm not trained, you know, so I faulted it off basically. And this is something that I've adopted, you know, not from that, but I think it's just in my nature. I don't, you know, flog a dead horse if things get more problem than they're worth. And this is the same with customers now, and I have had a bit of a purge of bad customers, but any customer now, and this is what I urge to you, if people start getting a pain in the arse, get rid of them. Even the first sort of whisper, I give people a chance, but you know, there's not one chance for everything. You just know yourself just to bloody get rid of people, because they're the people, you know, because fundamentally your job isn't, you know, you take on what work you can do, you say no to it. It's the customer that sort of keeps you on and has got the expectation and says, right, I want this doing, I want that doing. It's a customer that can quite often, you know, break the camel's back, so to speak, like the last straw. And I find it's, you know, finding that balance is so hard. And a bad customer can just bollocks that up basically. you could really, sap it. I've had customers where I've had engagements and conversations with people, and they just leave you just feeling terrible after. They're just that negative. That's another thing I want to talk about, is people around you. There is a saying or something by a philosopher, whatever, and it's something like you're only as good as the people around you, or something like that. So if you surround yourself by positive, happy people, you will be positive, happy people by de facto. Things like that will leech onto you, hopefully. If you are surrounded by negative, rude, miserable people, then it will start leeching into you, and it does. I've had it before where I've worked around people. Like shift work, you can have a shift where people are nice and happy, and then you can have a shift where you've got, like I said, horrible, miserable people, and it just saps your will to live because their negativity. Now, I'm not on about auras and energy and all that bollocks. I'm on about it seeps into you after a while. It can start getting you down. It can. So I think that as well. At the end of the day, you've got your work life, you've got your business life, your job where you go out to work 9 to 5. But if you've got a hellish situation at home where you're always putting fires out, or there's always problems, then one can't sort of negate the other. And this is what I want to talk about now with bad customers. A bad customer, and I've said this before, a bad customer, in my opinion, is the equivalent to a cancer or a virus, in regards to they will infect you, other people around you, and it will spread. Now, I'm not saying that you can have a bad experience with Mr. Such and Such and then go around to Mrs. Such and Such, and straight away she's caught it and now she's a bad customer. But if you have a customer where they basically put on you, make you feel like your work isn't good enough, so you're questioning your work, they probably try to sort of price scalp you, so moaning about your price, and then you go to Mr. and Mrs. Such and Such and you're worried about the price. So say if it ripped you off and you think, right, I don't want this to happen again, I'd like cash up front for this, please, and then you're sort of questioning your work, that could end up where that customer ends up having a bad experience. Ultimately, it is your fault, because you could have cut rough with her, or you could have been a bit bad with payment terms. So say if you had a string of bad payers and you bang, the day after they should have paid you, there texting. And I think sometimes texts are the worst things you can send because they can be read out of context. But if you ring them, again, that there's no right way, but you could be a bit overzealous, say text them, and then bang, so all of a sudden, the good customer, Mrs. Such and Such, is thinking, actually, this garden's a bit of a dick. Same as if, the flip side to your business is it might not turn your customers bad, but you could go to Mr. Bastard, say, or Mrs. Bastard, and do a job for them, and they go, I don't feel like, you've ripped me off, it's too much money. And actually that would be fine. You've done a fair day's work, and you actually then think, shit, am I ripping him off? Is this too much money? And then you could have that where that's applying to other customers, so you can go and do a quote, and really you're thinking, right, this is a £200 job, but then you're thinking to yourself, oh wow, this, no, and you've got it in the back of your head, and it's like, you know what, I'll do it at 170. And then suddenly, Mr. and Mrs. Bastard, who moaned at you because you were overly expensive when you actually weren't, you were then losing 30 quid. And it doesn't take many jobs like that before you actually end up losing quite a bit of money. So it is very hard, and the answer to it is, I always try and look at it, and I've had all these happen to me. I've got shitty people around me, negative people. I'm dealing with that. I've had it where I've had customers in the past, you deal with it, but my honest sort of way of dealing with it is trust yourself, trust your ability. If ever you start questioning your ability, so if ever you think to yourself, was I bad on that job, look at your customer base, think to yourself, right, I'm always busy, I'm full time, so I'm not doing this on the sly. I've got 25 jobs a week with 25 different customers. Think to yourself, how many of them moan? Now, if 25 of them are moaning, you've probably done a fucking shit job, and you might need to look at something. You might need to think, shit, every person's not happy with what I do. But if 25 of them people are happy, and they've been happy, and they've always been happy, then unfortunately, statistically, it is Mr. and Mrs. Bastard that are the outliers. They are the problem, they are the people. And you've got to remember this, there's some people out there that aren't happy with anything. Whatever you do, they will not be happy. I don't know why people are like this. Whether it's sport, whether it's something to keep them, active, where, they don't like peace and happiness, they want to be at war with everybody. Maybe it's that. But there's a lot of things with people where they are like that, and like I said, it is soul destroying. It really is. How to spot him? Well, I think I've done a video on that, or I should have done, but there's no spotting him. It can come out of nowhere. There was a thing I saw on Facebook. I'll try and cut this video off soon, and this was one where you do somebody a favour. Now, in my honest opinion, you can still do people a favour. You can still do people a good deed. You can do your good deed of the day. You can do whatever you want. But again, there's some people out there that will take advantage of you in that process. I'm sorry. There was a chap on Facebook. Now, obviously, we've only got this bloke's account, but I've done it. I've had it happen to me. I've heard other people, seen other people, so I do believe him. And he put a post up where this lady basically had him to cut the grass every 2 weeks, and she'd messaged to say that she's a bit hard up. Could he drop down to do the grass once a month, but for the same price? And this bloke said he did say on the Facebook thing that he had to think about it, but he decided to do it because he liked the woman or felt sorry for her. Can't remember which one it was. Basically, from the first cut, she was a nightmare, moaning about it being messy, and he said he was doing it in the rain. And at the end of the day, we've had pretty much 3 months of rain, so it's going to be as and when. This lady had text back something like, if you want to keep doing it, or you want me to keep paying you to do it, can you only do it on a dry day? So not only is this lady fleecing this bloke out of 2 weeks of wages, or 2 weeks of money, she's also then dictating to him his schedule. So she's not happy with how he runs his business, and also, reading in between the lines, she's then dictating his quality of work. So you can see how bad customers. Now, this customer might not be bad for the fact, and I didn't see the after picture, and this is the thing, it could have looked horrific, but I genuinely think most blokes with a brain, women with a brain, they thems with a brain, we're inclusive on this channel, but most people will not go on Facebook, to put a post up like that without at least doing a decent job to back it up. So you can see how people are, and unfortunately, it's an ever-changing. There's always people like this, and it's my biggest frustration. This is the thing. I know when I talk to my brother, I talk to him about stuff a lot, and he always says to me, he said, this is why I couldn't be self-employed, this is why I couldn't do your job. He said, I couldn't put up with the people. And my answer to that is, well, it's isolated. Look, even though I do quite a few videos, but if you look at them, there's probably, I'll have to have a count up, and hopefully there's not many, bad customer videos in a year. And that's a reflection. I probably get 2 or 3 shockers a year like this, but this year's been the worst for it. There's some I've told, some I've not told, but this year has been the worst for it. So my thing is basically, look after yourself, look after your business, and that's all you can do. Look after the loved ones around you that deserve it, and just keep plodding on. If you feel getting burnt out, cut back. If you cancel, if you need 2 weeks to yourself, a week to yourself, do it, because these customers aren't going. Okay, some might know each other, But if you cancel everybody for that visit and you go back 2 weeks from now, yeah, you're going to have a bit of catch up, but I can guarantee most people will not really care as long as it's done when you get back. You know, and if that's what it takes for you to get sorted, grab a couple of weeks, go away. If you can't go away, there's plenty of stuff to do for free. Walking, you know, just go out and chill out, clear your head, you know, organise things, get yourself, put things to pen and paper. I think it's the best thing you can do, especially in this climate. And another thing, you've got to look after yourself, because as depressing as it sounds, self-employed people, you know, we haven't got a union, we don't get much help off the government. God, this is sounding right miserable, isn't it, this? But it's something that I've learned, you've got to look after yourself and your own business. So, have a good day, guys. I'm sorry if this is a bit of a depressing one, but like the subject matter itself, we need to give it the respect it deserves. Have a good day, guys. Keep on gardening.